Virginia's daughter. It's true, we had, you know, mother-daughter arguing, fighting, but our love was so deep, it is beyond this earthly plane. And my mom and I loved each other so deeply. We learned a lot. She was always teaching me lessons. That's what she did. She was an incredible teacher.
Yes, she was.
And you know, we're here to learn lessons. And I just have to tell you that when I was on the way here, because Friday night I heard that her blood pressure went up, and you know, for 9 months I was hearing things were going on, but Mom kept hanging on. I know she wanted to go home. She wanted to go home. She kept saying she wanted to go home, but there came a point where she stopped talking, and she just was listening. She could hear. And so I have video, and I've played for Valentine, that me reading to Mom, and her really responding, and her loving what she was reading, because I know spiritual messages of truth are food for my mother and her soul. And I got in the car Saturday morning at 7. I left a half an hour late, got in the car at 7:30 a.m., racing out here. I thought it was just going to be another time that I'd spend about 3 days with my mother. But when I got here, at about 10:40, I was in the car, and I felt this. I've had a lot of people praying for my mother, and as we're driving, my dear friend Jim Boyden, who couldn't, it was too emotional for him last week, so he's here in spirit too. 10:40, I felt this wave of warmth through my body, and I didn't understand. Wow, I was so tense and nervous, and I felt this nurturing, warm feeling, and I just kind of sat with it, and I thought, wow, I guess all the people are praying for me. Is that what it feels like? Prayers really working. And then as we drove up, Jim was walking fast, and I said, hi, Jim. He said, Mom passed. And Jim dropped me off. I ran inside, and Jim and I and John all came in at once. Mm-hmm. And Mom was gone within 5 or 10 minutes, I guess, before I got there. And you know, her favorite song, she always told me when she was 6 years old, was, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
So I started singing that to her through my tears and stroking her forehead. And, you know, her jaw had dropped, and I thought, God, is she really gone? But I felt sad, but I felt happy. Because she's free. Joyous because Mom is free of that deteriorating body. Amen. And she's with God, and she's with Spirit, and she is free, celebrating and soaring through Spirit. And you know, I sat there for 6 hours with my mother's body, waiting for the coroner. Jim said they'd be there in 3 hours. But then something happened, they were turned away, and then they came back. So I got to be there with my mother and stroke her head and stroke her arms and talk to her, because I know the spirit was so strong in that room. Her body was warm. And I would kiss both sides of her cheeks. And I removed all the prop pillows, and I removed everything off her feet. And I was just blessing her, and I called someone who knows about the afterlife, and he said, just make her as pretty as possible and make her environment as pretty as possible. I put lipstick on my mom, her favorite lipstick. Does everybody here agree that's the right, you know, the way she'd want to go? I was very thrilled by it. So I touched this hot pink lipstick, and I removed the pillows, and she's laying there, and her body's still warm, and they all came back to Jim's house to connect with each other, and I just stayed there. And they kept saying, do you want to come? Do you want to come to the house? I said, no, I'm going to stay with Mom. And it was really important I was there. And I'll tell you, I put her left hand on her stomach, and I put my left hand on her left hand, and then her right hand on my hand, and then my right hand in her hand. And it was like a hand sandwich I made. I had a hand sandwich with my mother, and it was so warm and so nurturing. And I thought, wow, this isn't scary. This isn't a dangerous. I'm with a dead body. But the spirit was so big in the room. My mother's spirit was so large that she filled the whole entire room, and she filled me. And that warmth I felt driving out here was her. It was her saying goodbye. It was her telling me that it's important to be connected with God and to listen and to feel her and develop a relationship with her beyond this physical plane. And I want her to be my guardian angel. And it was just a really incredible experience. And even Michael said, "Are you sure you want to be here when they come? Because they're going to throw her in a body bag and cart her off. It's going to be, you're going to remember that forever." And I thought, you know what? My favorite kitty cat I had to put to sleep, and I just left her, and I always regretted, because I thought a dead body is a dead body, but it's not. It's that my mother was, it's a spiritual experience where we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And when the spirit leaves, it's shedding itself of that old, worn out shell. And my mother did that, and her spirit is here right now, and she's here at this memorial, and she is loving all of you, and she is, that's why I wanted to make this chair for Mom. I was sitting in it, and I thought, no, Mom needs to be sitting right here. And she was very involved with Eastern philosophy, Paramahansa Yogananda, and Elise had taken all the things out of the room, but I had one picture of Paramahansa Yogananda and some stuffed animals. So I said, how do I make her pretty? Everything's gone. I put the picture up, I put the stuffed animals around, and you know, in the Eastern philosophy, they always leave a chair for the guru, for the saint, empty when we have a celebration. So this is Mom sitting right here, and I put her hat here that you've seen in so many photos. And I thank you all for being here, supporting my mother. And I know you all loved her at different levels. And I just, I'm thankful for Susie for taking hold, because I've been a wreck for this week. I've been a wreck. I put those black and white photos together, and Elena and Valentine have been such a loving support to me. And Jim Boyden, they put that whole collage together of a love letter for my mother to me. And it's so beautiful. I wanted to bring it to show all of you. So I have one thing I wanted to read. It's Kahil Gibran right here, and it's just a segment of. It says on death. It's the chapter on death. Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing, and when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then you shall truly dance. And I sincerely believe that Mom is dancing. She loved to dance with John. That was what she loved to do, was dance. They went on a cruise, and she had trouble walking. She came back so happy. Oh, I love dancing with John. It was so much fun. I'm thinking, how could she dance? She's walking like this now. And I thought, my mother.
I'm not a good dancer.
You just held her up.
It was really, my mother always was happy, and their friends who are the singers that are here, she'd sit there just so happy. The music really lit up my mom's soul. And I brought my girlfriend Valentine. Elena and I lived with for 2 years, and Mom loved Elena. She's from Romania, and she's the sweetest person on the planet, full of love and joy and light. And she's been taking me in this whole time, and I've been coming to love my mother, and Elena has let me sleep in her condo with her husband. She got off of Match.com. Not in the room, but and Valentine has been in my life for 30 years. And Jim, my brother Jim, John, and Mom have actually hired Valentine to sing at a lot of their parties, which they love to give parties. And Valentine has been my friend. She was 16 when I met her, and I was 23. We were in a play, lead roles, and Valentine came out to share with you a lot of the songs that John and my mother loved. Cats, Memory, all these beautiful songs, and we were up until 4 a.m. this morning
Choosing.
choosing,
It'll be
and she didn't have her
perfect.
music,
Awesome.
so she worked really hard
One's good.
on celebrating my mother and giving a gift to you of music that my mother loved and songs that she loved. And I have one little letter that I found that, I mean, Jim wants us to read something that my mom left, but
She wants us to.
Yeah, your mom
yeah,
knows.
but I wanted to, this is in my mother's writing, and she had sent me a letter. As always, she was always my biggest inspiration. She was my mentor. She was my guide. Oh, sorry. Is that the one? She was my mentor. She was my guide, and she was my teacher, and she was my best friend, and she was my mother, and she was, I have tons of cards that my mother gave me, this most beautiful, inspirational, but this one letter I was reading last night, and it says, "Dearest Maureen, I am sharing my deepest self with you when I tell you, when my mother died, and when my son died, I was devastated and heartsick. I cried until I hurt. There was no person there for me. I was alone, but this God or Christ was there within, giving me peace and strength to cope with my dark night of the soul. Each time, whenever, most of my life, I have felt that someone or something was happening was too much to bear. The light of love, God and Christ and higher power was always," and she underlined it twice, "was always there when I turned within to it." She said, "When I turned into it for comfort. My inner teacher and comforter helps me over all bumps every day. The most I can give to my children is to tell them how I cope with the dark times, the way I choose," and she underlined choose, "to cope. I don't know any other way. The higher power we all have already, we need to turn within to it. I would say to my children, if you must ask advice on relationships of another person, choose a person who demonstrates a 10 to 15 years good, loving, and happy relationship in your life. When we look to other people to show us the way, in quotes, we become like them. So we must choose people we want to be like. People like who demonstrate love, kindness, forgiveness, givingness, happiness. That will be what returns to them. Cause and effect, a law we cannot escape. Good thoughts and deeds equal good life. Hurtful thoughts and deeds equal hurt life. It is time for you to accept your inner self, your God self, and find peace and love that is, I can't read, I'm crying. I will not speak of these things again to you until you ask me to. I know you are God in action and spirit. You will know one day, 1 minute. I love you very much. God loves you. Your mother. Anyways, I found this. I wasn't prepared for this. Are you ever prepared when someone actually leaves and dies? Never. So I wasn't preparing things for the past year. I just started frantically looking through things and thinking, what could I share with you in the last day or two? But
beautiful,
anyways, I
Maureen.
wasn't prepared.
That's beautiful.
You were.
great.
That was
I
beautiful.
wasn't prepared.
You're perfect.
I wasn't prepared for my mother to go,
No.
and I love you all, and keep her alive in your mind and in your
Yes.
spirit. That's how she's going to stay alive. Thank
Amen.
you very much.
Thank you, Maureen.